Hello everyone and welcome to yet another Confidential Friday. I'm your host, Johnny. A pleasure to be coding again in front of you, in front of everyone live. This is one of the streams where it's the imposter syndrome cure. You get to see a senior principal, whatever you may want to call me, a decades experienced long engineer that can barely speak English, go through code. I've seen lots of problems. I can sometimes solve code fast, but sometimes I'm stumbled, sometimes I need to check Google and all of that good stuff. So if you think that you're an imposter, you know, it's fine. You'll make it through the day. You'll Google through, you'll get help from a teammate, you'll pass through the problem. And one of the things that I found is often very problematic and can cause unexpected bugs is when you litter your code with unexpected booleans. So is loading, is fetching, is idling, is that sort of boolean that checks whether you fetch the data or haven't fetched the data, or the user has clicked the button or hasn't clicked the button, or anything like that. And as a friend has told me, when there is a flag, there is a bug. And that's the thing we'll be trying to avoid with finite state machines. Now, finite state machines, because English is not my favorite language, used to sound very intimidating to me. It's the machine part. It's what I would hear and then immediately think of Transformers or something like that, like Optimus Prime or Megatron, something huge and intimidating. But in reality, it's not that much. And if we look at our TechieCat code, we'll see that we are using state machines in a very rudimentary way for our login form and other forms in the project. Finite state machines can be thought of as a finite amount of states. So your app may be idling, or may be loading, or may be in the success state. And the complication comes from getting from one state to the other, may have some guards, may not be allowed. So maybe you can only go to the success state if you're already in the loading state, and you can only go to the loading state if you are in the idle state or the error state. The cool thing with finite state machines and the tool we're going to use today, XSTATE, is that it's easier to visualize what's happening. So there used to be tech programming challenge that we put candidates through, where we found that the people that were doing the best at solving the problem were the ones that would use pen and paper to actually diagram out what the states we want them to handle, really, what would be useful for their project to have. But XSTATE is a tool that can do the visualization for you. So let's go straight into the visualizer, and then you can see that this state machine has a draft state, an inquiry state, a draft request state, and a pending request state, which can be maybe harder to explain than it is to see. The last time I used the XSTATE was probably 2 years ago, where I was trying to create a secure link to upload a file. So to upload a file to AWS and other services like that, usually you need to make a call to their API, and then you get back a URL, and they'll tell you, all right, submit your file to this URL and we'll store it for you. And then the user can actually do an action to start streaming the file to you, and then you stream the file back up to the AWS link. And that was a bit hard to explain, but much easier to explain once I've set it up with XSTATE and had this sort of graph that could visualize, I suppose, all the states that our code needed to get through and needed to handle. So in this example, where we have this XSTATE state machine, but it doesn't really matter. You are in the draft state, then a save event happens, and then two things need to happen, two asynchronous events need to happen, and once both of them are fulfilled, then the inquiry becomes doable. This event fires, you're in the draft request state, and then you can actually apply for a loan, and you're stuck in the last state of pending request. Don't think this is specified as a finite state, but pay no mind to the code on the right. This is explicit XState code that we will figure out. The thing I want to show is that if I were to put into words what our application needs to do here, how we can go through the process of the user requesting a loan, it may be harder to do. Well, here with this nice visualizer, it's easier to understand, it's easier to reason about. You can tell, all right, we start in a draft state, then the user clicks the save button, and then two things need to happen. We need to scan the card back and the front, and then we can actually submit the check for the inquiry to happen, which may cost us some money if we're using a third party like Untitled or whatever else. And then it's a draft request, so it's possible to go forth and execute the request. We can tell the user, are you sure you want to apply for a loan? It seems that everything's in order, you're ready, and then you could confirm again that they can apply. This is because usually when you do those things, you may do like credit checks or soft checks or hard checks to further confirm that you can give money to the user, or maybe once you've done the application, maybe you immediately transfer the money to them. Anyway, I'm trying to get out of the fintech world, so I won't go into further detail than that. What we will be doing today is using XState to create that sort of visualization tool for our memory game. If you remember, in past streams, we've created this nice old school card flipping game where you are supposed to remember where the matching cards are, and if you've managed to tap on them correctly, then they stay open. And the code for that is alright, it's definitely manageable, but I do think refactoring to use XState would make it a bit more reasonable and a bit easier to add features. For example, when I make the wrong selection, it may be fun to do a little screen shake type of effect, place a sound effect which would make it a bit more fun, maybe animate the wrong guesses counter here. And of course that is possible to extend with the current code, but I do think it would be easier with XState. I'm not sure, and that's what these streams are about. We're gonna investigate and see if things come out as well as we please. And the thing with XState, as I said, I've used it before for TypeScript. It's cool because it does have libraries explicit for React and Vue and Svelte, but you can also use it anywhere that you're using TypeScript. So for that project, for that company that I mentioned, that uploading project before, we did actually end up using XState for many other things and not just on our React apps, because sometimes the backend would need to recreate some state itself without the frontend existed, without the React Native or the actual React frontend existing. The server would need to do some calculations there. So if you are using XState for that, for keeping track of your state and keeping track of your events, you can rebuild the user state even on the server, even when you're not using a frontend tool, a frontend framework like Svelte or React. All right, that's a lot of words. I hope you're having a lovely day. How are you today? I'm feeling good. I'm feeling ready. I will take a sip of coffee and tick off the things that need to be ticked off and start getting to coding. As always, or at least as I do every time I remember, I will be setting up a 25-minute focus timer, but you can always say hi in the chat. You can always tell me, oh, how about this, Johnny? How about that? You can always give me advice. You can always give me your questions. I always try to be helpful. And for sure, let me know what you want me to tackle next. Comment on any video. I do read all of them at this point. I appreciate every subscriber and every comment and everyone watching. Like, so long as you spend your time hanging around with me, that's great. And it's still quite manageable to be able to read every comment. So get those comments out. All right, noodle timer set. We've talked about finite state machines, maybe too much talking, let me know. And I did go through the visualizer here which showed that loan application that some user made. So this tool apparently, like Code Sandbox or StackBlitz or whatever else, you can actually use to scaffold your code with that nice visualization on the left, and then copy paste it into your project once you're done, or also save it, share it, give it to others. Most of the time we're solving the same problems again and again. Like most of the time we're submitting forms, we're waiting for things, we're rendering through lists, and it does make sense that maybe in this project that the XSTATE team is doing, there will be code that you'll find useful. We're not going to be using this today though. I just wanted to show it. I did talk about the memory game and see how we can probably extend it if we refactor. And then I was gonna download the VS Code extension for XSTATE, which apparently is doing a lot of magic things, including having that visualizer in the project. I haven't tried this before, so 2 years ago, when I think I stopped using XSTATE because the TypeScript integration wasn't that great. They didn't have this, and now they're doing all sorts of cool stuff like this editor, like auto-generating TypeScript files that I really want to try out. And if it's as good as they claim, and as the 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5 10-star reviews are showing, maybe it is, then maybe back. Enable this for sure. And we'll assess whether this plugin is worth it. If it is, like in any project, as a reminder, I have this vscode.vscode extensions JSON, which if you check out the project and open it up, it will actually ask you if you want to install any of those recommended extensions. People sometimes ask me, what do you use for this? What do you use for that? I do list these as way so you can immediately see and have on your editor the things that I do recommend for these types of projects. All right, VS Code installed. Will it help? Who knows? But we have installed it, and now it's time for coding. Implement our memory game machine. The first thing for that would be to actually install the XSTATE and XSTATE Svelte dependencies, I imagine. I was hoping would be put into the project, but I misclicked. So this is what we want. We can go to the terminal, npmi dev dependency XSTATE. I think the bottom of this screen isn't quite readable in the screen, but hopefully this is enough to know what we've done in our Tegica project, which has many things, and the memory game that we want to expand upon. So for the memory game, we have two things. We have the page UI that does keep track of something. So it keeps track, it knows the initial board. It gets it from the server, actually. It keeps track of the amount of wrong guesses we have done. And then it passes a few things into the board component. And the board component is doing many things as well. It is mutating the board in place whenever you click a card after check-in. Does this face match the previous face? If yes, then you can keep it as revealed, or else you have to default back hidden. But you have to do it on a timeout, so it won't be like immediately, the user shouldn't immediately be able to just click again. If you can see that on my screen, maybe open the inspector to get the cards a bit higher. But yeah, it's fun to play the game, but I won't actually play the game. Now, what we want to do is, I was going to say, initially I wanted to go to the editor and visualize the nodes of our states. So we are in the idle state, then we are in a one selected matching state or something, and then you do your second thing, and our logic needs to see whether it matched the one you selected before or not, and revert back to the idle state, either through success, so the board is now revealed, the two last things you picked state revealed, or through error, where the two things you picked go back to their hidden state. And according to what the editor is saying, the moment I pass create machine, I should get a hint to open the visualizer. So we get the initial board from the server. We want to do these two things. Import the library helpers. Or maybe even, let's create a new file for this, because I don't know if we'll use it on this level or not. We'll see. And let's call it memoryGameMachine.ts. Import these two things. Don't do it here. Page component. Forget this ever happened. Now memoryGameMachine, we want to say export const memoryGameMachine, create machine. And I was hoping would be getting the nice visualizer there, but I think the command palette will give me something. Open visual editor. Oh, could not find machine in the current cursor. Maybe here. Oh, visualizer, it has nothing. Open visual editor. Great. So I guess this is the memory machine and this is how we create it. So if we do it here, maybe not. Oh well, it doesn't really matter. Let's remove this. Have the machine. Can we rename this? Can we right click this? Yeah. So this is slightly freaky. You can see that it actually types on the left as well. Type. Do we need a description? Probably not. Entry actions, probably none. I wish this were a bit bigger. So how do you add a state? So it starts at idle, I imagine. So state idle, great. And event. And then the user does something. Pick event. Could be a pick A or pick B. Who knows? Maybe a pick event. Pick, like for pick card. And I think they usually make the names uppercase. Some of them, not all of them. Interesting. Maybe this is an event? Alright, of course, the states are uppercase. Oh well, doesn't really matter. Do they have any uppercase events? Nah. I don't like shouting. The naming things is hard, clearly. And the new state is your machine and then pick event again. And then my question is whether I want to revert or keep. So no event should happen. Immediately you should transition to that other state. But we'll figure it out. Let's call it animations for now, because maybe we'll want to play the animation there, but I don't think that's what's gonna happen. Maybe not. Let's say that from the matching state, we can go back to the idle state with a pick event. I don't know if this is more readable or not. Or we can go to the one state. But with what event? Like both of them. So both states handle pick events. But at some point you may get to the one state through a pick event again. Interesting. If I have a guard, would that be allowed? If true. Guess not. From the one state, you should be able to do a replay event. I think that will stay in the end. And let's say that this doesn't happen. This has no type guard. But this actually gets you into the calculating state. Not actually sure. What do actions do? Is it time to read the docs? Probably. So I remember from the delay read the docs. I remember they have a delay somewhere. Delayed events and transitions. So if we are in this state, then we can say after 1000 seconds, go back to idle again. Which may be what we want for the animation state. But are we in the same state? Is idle and matching the same state? I'd say no. I'm trying to visualize in my head whether you get a pick event and then you're doing the calculation. But this doesn't send an event. How can you create the node here? How can you create the after there? Don't really know. And I think this has not added the TypeScript definitions either. But we'll see. I guess we can try to code it and see what is happening. Right, this is a transition for sure. That goes by an event, and the question is, does just the after, like does the after count as an event? Probably not. We may also want to have a look at guards. Ah, interesting. So the pick event does get us to the matching state when we're on idle every time. But my question is, do we get to the we can add a condition here, which who knows what it will be. It will go back to idle, achieving an effect, if this is true, but also this is an array, right? So on the pick event, try this if this condition is true, or target feedback, reverting state, let's call it that. And we get some linting. I don't need to call this method twice. So first it will check if this is true and get us there. If not, it will be done. But I guess first you want to check whether I've won. Or maybe not, we'll see. But I want to say that we do have another state, which is called reverting now, which should be using the after trick. So second object can be our object with the type cards. Here we can have type cards. to remember there is a TypeScript addendum here. So let's have a look. Because they do say something about guards here, if I remember correctly. So we should type the guard, but let's search again for guard. Cool, just a string after all. So cont is Madsen. If it's Madsen, it goes straight to idle after doing a side effect to our board. If not, it reverts back, which will also have a side effect. In the reverting state, this is the thing that we want to happen on a delay. So let's search for delay again. And let's say that after, it seems that's just nested like this. The target should be back to idle again. And the time we want this to happen, the reverting time, I guess we had it at 500 here. And let's look for TypeScript again, because I thought that the editor would be doing it for us. Automatically for a VS Code file. Maybe search here. Maybe search for plugins again. XSTATE. Interesting. I wonder if we need to specify a schema here. And our schema will indeed be something that has the board, and we know the board is actually a card array. Not this. A card from this file, from the types file, of course. So where's the types file? Here. Oh. Just copy it from here. claim, I need to say as like this. Doesn't like it for some reason. My light did go off, so I'll take a bit of a break to have a look at the chat. Say hi to everyone. It looks like it's added some code here. Let's see if the inspector looks any different now. All right, it's kind of cool. So we start from idle, pick event happens, then pick with the is matching thingy gets you back to idle, or it gets you to reverting, which after 500 milliseconds it gets you to idle. But at some point you should also be getting to 1, which is interesting. Pick event. I guess we can start with an is one guard. Which gets you to the success state. To the one state, sorry. So from the matching state, you can go to the one state if you've already won. You can go to the back to the idle state if so we can actually click around here, which is kind of fun. So from idle state, you start the game at idle state. Interesting. So you start from idle state. You fire a pick event. You get to the matching state. You can either fire pick is one, pick event, or pick is matching. If you fire this, why do you get in the one state? That doesn't make sense. It should be getting you into the idle state, and then you can replay and start again. Seems like you always get to the one state in this example. Can I just click anywhere? Guess not. Is it because these aren't really implemented? What happens if I don't have this? So pick and then from the matching state, it is as if you fired this. Is 500 milliseconds to match half a second? I don't think so. It just never gets there. It knows we're using it here. Of course, this should be context. So in the context, we have a board. Is this the thing that made it crash? No, always goes to the one state. Which I guess is the first one here. Yeah, now it gets to the idle state. Interesting. How do we implement these guards? Maybe there's a way to find out. You have the context and you have the event in there. And you return true false, so it should be getting us the correct place. And we've probably put it in the correct object. Yeah. So I'm gonna write that 12 here now. You have to return true or false. Is it because no, they're using fat arrows here? I wonder if they're doing some binding magic. They don't seem to be. Oh well. We'll see if it works. Eventually. And we do have something, I guess. So if we look at this tree, we can get to a matching state, and then we see what we pick. And then our type cards should be working, so hopefully it would get us correctly into the appropriate state. So search event, only if this is true. Did I do it correctly? On pick array. And the array ends here. Initial normal. Oh, is this a state within state? Yes. So from the idle state, on pick, always get there. For the matching state, on pick, try to do this first, but then since it's false, it should not be getting there in real life, but not in the editor. Makes sense. Makes some sense. But now we want to have a look at how this works with Svelte. So we have created for now this state machine, and we want our component here to initialize it. My question is, how do we initialize it with context? We'll figure it out, I suppose. And the machine is gonna be the memoryGameMachine. And it looks like we can start it with a context board here, which should be typed. And the amount of wrong guesses is something we'll put into the machine as well. But our interesting. What happens if we just use this? This is something I did not expect. It's just a super hard crash. Well, if you say that, if you say so. If you say we should add this, I'm gonna add it. It's not there. Is it here? Now it's happy. And now we can start it with the context of boards, and it's still happy. Yeah, I don't know why it flipped out that hard. Let's give it the old restart again. Cool. Game still works because we haven't implemented any of this, so we're still mutating the board itself. But what we want is to pass the new board here. So board is state board. Maybe that's not the case. Let's double check. No, it's not. How do I keep track of the context? Context board. And then it flips out, and we don't know why. The old classic. Let's console log what the board we're passing actually is. Or board. So it's starting to look like this thing is not defined. So indeed, there is no context here. Does it eventually become something? So for handle wrong guess, we have here let's put our console log there. See what's the state of the board in this case. Undefined. So maybe this isn't the way to pass context around. So how do we pass the context? Docs time. And did I re-add this? No. Let's do it again. 25 more minutes, maybe another sip. Oh, this is gonna be initial context. No. You create the machine, you have the context, you put it there. Is there something in the Svelte packets? Use machine is this. it says you can pass it options, which I think have context. Initial context? Not really. I'm trying to TypeScript my way out here, because this doesn't seem valid. Start this machine. It feels like this should be true. Did I just make it up? Context is a property there, so not just TypeScript. Did I name it incorrectly? State does have a board, and the board is undefined. Interesting. If I just give it an empty array, what happens? Interesting. So it looks like this variable is empty. Do I use board again elsewhere? Not really. Board is undefined. Data board? Interesting. I think the reactive assignment is making it flip out. So if our board is the board from the data, it won't flip out, I think. Whoops. Right, so we don't need to default from that. Wow, that was it. For some reason, the reactive assignment made this initially be undefined, and then it becomes like the board, I guess. Weird. So let's not use this anymore. And start the machine from here. And now we feed the board component with the board from the state machine. Cool. And then I guess our board will need to handle sending an event, right? And all we need is to send an event. Handle pick, which would be doing send pick event, but with data. So how do we type events? Not there. Send event with a payload. That's what I'm trying to find. Key, right. So what do we want? The index? Or the card? Let's see if the TypeScript thing has a suggestion how to type this. Ah, right. So it wants all of this. Somewhere else. Sorry, I was in the wrong file. So let's go back to the use machine, the memoryGameMachine file where we create the scene. And here, how they actually want to type this is you have the empty object for the context, and then you say as board card, and then it should be happy. And then I wonder if here, if I started without context, would it be complaining? Answer is no. Oh well. That would be cool. It would know that I'd need this to be defined. But in any case, we got here because we wanted to see the event. So the possible events are pick, which has an index maybe? No, definitely not. Pick, which has a card, which is a card, and an index. What does it have? We'll figure it out. First is the pick event, though, and then we have the retry event. It's, I imagine it's actually the replay event. So it's giving me nice linting. That's pretty cool here. If I try to submit an event that doesn't exist, if I try to react to an event that doesn't exist, get some lint underlines. This is cool. Replay, don't need any other variables. But when I pick, so for the pick event, when I'm sending the pick event, what do I need? I'm not sure. We need to go to our board component and figure out what happens. Don't need to console log here. So when a card is clicked, it's just the index. All right, so maybe that's all we need. And then we're checking exactly if it's the correct card or not the correct card. Cool. Cool. So, back to the memory game machine. Or not actually. Back to our page UI component that has the board component. Our handle pick just needs an index, and it just needs to send an index number. But then I'd be hoping that this would be getting some linting errors. Or should it be type pick and index, right? And this is flipping out because it's not correctly typed. We're saying that this is an index with a number. So if we get a pick event, it's like this. And now this is not complaining anymore. If I try to send it like a card or something, it's gonna complain. You need to give me an index of the payload that has a number. Great. And to the board for now, let's pass along the handle pick. And the board component, instead of doing all of this, I guess, we'll be calling the handle pick method to send the event. So handle pick with an index number, and we'll be recreating this logic. Call it anyway, the index. We'll hopefully be removing this. And now things should behave kinda correctly. So it's time to, well, if I click around it still works because it still has my initial logic. So let's break it before we fix it. Let's go to the board. And instead of doing all of this, let's do nothing. Oh boy. So now we click and nothing happens. Fair enough. We click and nothing happens because what we are doing actually is we're sending the handle pick event, the pick event, but pick event doesn't really do anything. It does change our machine to be from idle to go to from idle to matching, I suppose, but it never messes with the context. And that's what we want to do. We want to have a side effect here. So let's check in the docs again. Maybe for context, maybe it will have something. Right, an action. I guess we'll have a pick card event. Flip card, which makes sense. But we need to define it somewhere. So let's go to the TypeScript again. Actions. Cool. Looks like this. Do I return the new context with an action? Maybe not. So the event should have the index here, which is great. But let's look at actions again. Just use this and we'll create the schema attributes. Doesn't. Anyway, actions. Can we mutate or do we return the new state, like context? We just mutate it. How do we mutate the context? Do I literally mutate the context? Pure actions and all of that. Don't really care about. How do we mess up the context? Maybe the context docs will have something here. Context. Assign. Right, so this action returns an assign, which is an extra method. Kinda sounds familiar. So immediately we assign. Is there any other way to do assign? Like with nested objects? We can return a partial, which is cool. It looks like we always need to do the assign. No side effects. Yeah, don't do them there. Cool. Alright, so flip card. Our flip card does an assign, which we get from XSTATE. And this thing can have an anonymous method. Can you do a parcel? Yeah, you can do a parcel. So fat arrow here. This fat arrow will have the context and event. It's first and second arguments. And we need to return definitely a new board, but without side effects. So context, board, map, copilot is correct. And if the index of the card is the event index, this should always have this. Can you have a guard on an action? If it's not a pick event, then just return to object, I guess. Bail. But if it is, then this is guaranteed to have an index, surely. Does it not figure it out? That at this point it is. Oh, if it's not pick. So if it's not a pick event, bail. If it is a pick event, then this always has an index. So we typed it here. Amazing. And then we can say that the card has been revealed. Video Copilot trying to do some cleverness here. But in reality, the card has a face and a state. So the state should be revealed, selected, whatever we did. Let's say selected for now. All right. So this is complaining. But for what? The card state is either... I'm gonna paste all of this that we had in the other thing. So selected or revealed, great. So that's fine, right? Why is it complaining? You know that this is a card, so what's your problem? If I just spread this, you're happy. If I spread state revealed, you're not happy. And I don't understand why. This is one of the states, right? Card state. I guess you just need convincing. Alright, so now it's convinced that revealed is a valid card state, which is a bit annoying. We didn't have that problem before. But hey. And it should be revealing cards. And make sure this happens on matching 2. Can I say that this happens like regardless? Maybe? Because we need the calculation of whether you need to go back or not. Anyway. Well, let's see. So we click one card, it gets revealed. We click another, nothing happens because we haven't implemented it. And it does flip the correct one. So great, we get from the idle state to the matching state, the awaiting player choice state. But we do want to flip the cards in any case. We don't want to flip the cards in any case. Maybe we can have like a select card action. Flip card. It makes it selected. Well, flip card makes it selected. I'm gonna stop to think about this for a while. My timer went off. But flipping the card makes it selected. Which gets you into the matching state, I guess. And then if you have like 2 selected cards, you don't know which one you need to revert. Ah, you revert both. Great. Cool. So do you have like an automatic transition here? So without an event, I want to do something by checking are selected matching, or does it need a match, or something like that. Like if there is one selected, you go to idle, you go back to idle. If there are 2 selected, then you check to see if they have the same face. And if they do have the same face, you keep them as selected, or else you reveal them back, but after a delay. So that's the idea. Can you do a transition in any case? Can you immediately go somewhere? Maybe it's a self transition? Who knows? Alright, I'll keep an eye out on the chat and have another sip, and then we're getting back there. Just as I said that, eventless always transitions. On a condition, amazing. Cool. It's kinda what we have here. We may be in the playing state, I guess. Maybe that's what we should be calling it. And I did say we don't need to know whether which one was just selected for us. Alright, so instead of idle, we can call this playing state. Everything will flip out. So always target from the idle state can be is1, can be the one state. If the condition is 1, and on pick, the target can be itself. But then you flip the card with a pick, and then you do another check. And the condition is matching, and the actions are persist reveal or something. Then you go back to itself. Can you do the opposite? Maybe not. It's not matching. Do I like this? Maybe not. Is it too much logic in the idle state? Maybe not. We'll see. So let's call this playing state, no matching state, reverting state remains, and the target should be reverting, but this is flipping because idle, wherever I say idle, should be plain. Keeps going into itself. Stack Overflow. Classic. It's matching, is 1. We'll implement this eventually. So, always, it checks whether it's 1. And if yes, it goes to the 1 state. If it's matching, it's doing the persist reveal action. Persist reveals, which guess won't be needing the event, won't be needing to bail out, won't be needing anything. It's gonna be returning the board again, so we do need this actually. And say return the board. And if the card 8 is selected, return revealed. Is this never underlined? It's disappointing. So card states can be selected, hidden, revealed. Revealed is here, it's fine. So every selected card actually becomes a revealed card. If it's matching, persist reveals. If it's not matching, then go to the reverting state. No need for an action. And that's about it. I'm just thinking of the order. Let's put this one last. All right, so is matching. So do we have one selected states or two selected states is my question. we have the context here. The context has a board, which we can reduce as it's an array. You have the accumulator and you have its card. And each card has a state and a face. Let's say that this starts as false. And if accumulator is true, if it's already true, then return true. It will always be true. And this returns Boolean. It's happy. Do I need to type this or does it figure it out? Figures it out. So does that make any sense? Probably not. So I actually want the selected cards. This won't be returned a Boolean. Selected cards. We are gonna reduce the board to just the selected cards. So actually we can not do that. We can filter the board, it should be fast enough. Or we can reduce to early out if we already have to. Maybe. Maybe that's fine. Filter is easier. So let's filter and say get the state and return me all of those cards that have state selected as the copilot suggested. If the selected cards, if we have two selected cards and the face of the first one is the same as the face of the other one, then it's true, which is great. And that's pretty much the same thing we want to do for the is not matching. So is mismatching. So if the length is 2, this is not equal to the other one. We can call it here, mismatching. Then it should get us to the reverting state. And the reverting state, after 5 seconds, goes back to the playing state, but we want to revert back. Can we do after sake animations, something like that? We want to do an action here. Can we do the action on the after? Does it have an after in this page? No. Can we do an action on leave? Exit. Oh, awesome. So on exit action, so the reverting state on exit We can reset cards, I guess that's what they're saying there. Revert selected. And that revert selected action in the index, this. If you've been selected, now state becomes hidden. All right. Does this work? Who knows? Amazingly, it works. Can't believe it, to be honest. Let's look at the flowchart. Somehow. Open Visual Editor. Open Inspector. I'll try it again. Open the inspector. Does it actually do anything? Looks like the answer is no. Let's wait for it a bit more. Nah. Let's open the visual editor. Maybe that will work better. It does. Cool. So there are if statements there with the cards. That's quite fun. We are in the plain state. This is the smallest window in the world. Not meant for that type of situation. So you are in the plain state. Always something will have happened, but I can't actually get to the pick event, unfortunately. They didn't visualize it nicely enough. Oh well. So yeah, we are in the playing state, then we do the pick event, and then you almost always end up on the playing state, which checks if you've matched, or if you're mismatching, or if you've won. And if you've won, you actually make it to the win state, which I imagine is hidden somewhere here. And if I close this, would it align things better? No. Unfortunate. Oh well, would have been cool. What are we doing here? So if the condition is 1, then you go to the 1 state, which asks you whether you want to replay, which is fair enough. And for is 1, we want to say, I guess, we get the context again, board, everything should be revealed. That's when you know you've won. And this is our machine, which may be somewhat complete, maybe. Is it more readable than what we've had before? Maybe. I don't really know. But we don't have these weird booleans anymore. And the question is, how do we do the side effects then? How do we know to play the confetti animation? So we don't do anything with handle wrong guess because we only do the handle pick. For handle reset, this is giving us something. Of course, we need to do something with our counter of how many times we've had a wrong guess. Interesting. But for the reset, What were we doing? Oh, we're just reloading the page, which is fair enough, I guess. But let's see if we do make it. Anyways, we do have the blocking functionality still. Ah, did so well. Cool. So we do have the winning state, which is great, and I guess playing here reloads the page, so it should get us in the right place again. Yeah, kinda. We'll figure out if we'll do something else here. But the wrong guesses are not updating, so let's do that. And the confetti is not playing. Dear Lord. So we'll definitely want to do that side effect. Let's think about it first. Did I restart this? I didn't. And we'll take a break right after. Well, now actually. So let me know if you're still watching, if you're new, what do you want to see? The classic comments. Are you liking XState? Does it look nuts? Does it look awesome? Does it look more nuts than the code I had before? Does it look less? I'm not sure. We still have a ways to go to recreate the existing functionality that was there before we brought in XState. We have the wrong guesses and the animation to play the confettis to go out when we've won. And then we can try to do some nice things like screen shake during the delay. But I don't know how I would do that. It's where we'll be mixing like UI and this thing that's just on the backend. We'll see. So previously, if I open the board file, we don't need to handle the wrong guess anymore. So in the board file, we were loading the animation for sure, great, but we were playing the animation when we've won, and we could be doing this if the board is solved, I guess. If board solved, we do this. Guess we don't need this anymore. Just need a state. And we were playing this when we were winning. In the end, I probably have it in the paste history here. So handle click used to be. Did it have like a play? Yeah. So handle card click did used to have all these crazy things, and then if we figured out that you've won, we went and played this animation, which we do want to play if we have one, and I wonder, maybe we can do it if you're in the solved state. Maybe it's a different component, and if we have it in the component it will play. Maybe. We'll see. First order of business, in any case, will be setting the timer again. Because can probably do it when let's do the counter first, the wrong guesses thing. So we can have our state machine. So memoryGameMachine can have in the context wrong guesses. count. And the wrong guesses count is going to be a number. We can type that. And that means that our page for the memory game here can go and guesses. Should never set it. Can derive this from the state context wrong guesses count. And wrong guesses, we do set it in a few places, so we take it here. And here, I guess, is where we want to fire the retry event, replay event. And here again, we want to send the replay event. Maybe that's going to help. But we want our memory machine, once again, to be doing some mutations, which I imagine is, if you're in the playing state and you've mismatched, then maybe you can immediately do the thing of increasing your count, your revert count. In that case, it's going to be an action. Maybe it can be here, right? So revert selected. Maybe it can even be a handle miss. Do we use that anywhere? No, because on exit we revert selected, but on entry we want to increment the miss. And we want the whatever we called it, wrong guesses count, to be context, wrong guesses count, +1. And when do we want this to happen? We can do it on entry here. Why not? Linton to the rescue. Right, so let's see. We should be starting with wrong guesses count as 0, but clearly it's not happening. Maybe because we should be starting with wrong guesses count 0 here. And if we do a wrong guess, it does increment and stay. We got a different board now. Anyway, this seems to be incrementing, which is great, what we wanted. But I suppose we also wanted on replay to reset, I guess, wrong guesses. Probably to reset the board, I suppose. But we'll figure that out. This doesn't need the context at all. And we want an accent. It's a single one, I suppose. So when we replay, it does reset. Right, so I need to have a fat arrow to return a parcel, I suppose. What's its problem? Oh no, I need to use this parameter, to have this parameter, even though I don't have it, I don't use it. Oof, weird. Pretty weird. Fair enough. So now you get to watch me kind of play this. Didn't pay enough attention in the beginning. We are doing some weird redirection as well, which is what I'm thinking about, instead of trying to think where everything is. So I'm not too happy about what we'll be getting here, what score we'll be getting here. Yeah, it does reset, and this looks like it's different. So fine enough. Biggest problem is, what do we do for the confetti now? So the board shouldn't need this anymore. We should be able to pass an h1. Boolean and use that. Let's call it this one, like more. And that will be fine. However, how do we not play this? The side effect. So whatever we did, confetti animation. So in here, we're doing go to and play. Cool. It is a side effect, I guess. Can we put it in the context? Would that be slightly silly? What else do we have? Svelte lifecycle methods. From the docs. It feels like if we do it after update and we check that we are in the one state, it will play, but will it play, you know, a million times? Maybe. Let's give it a go, because at the very least it may be fun. Right, so if is 1, play this, and page component needs to be passing the is 1. And how can we check the state we're in? I think these packets will tell us. Guess not. Oh, guess yes. State value equals 1. Right, so it doesn't play to start with, which is cool. It I'm not thinking at all. We will run around there. The run is over. Alright, so I guess so long as that component never updates, we're fine. We're fine. I wonder if we can pass like the animation container in the state machine and then have it like as a side effect. I can actually play this. We can try. But then it happens on mount, so I'm not sure that would work. So on mount we load this and we have a reference to the animation, and then we need to pass it to the state machine after mounting, which is probably not what we want. We could create a state machine after mounting, but that feels wrong. So I'm not sure. Anyway, let's look at the agenda, which was super full today, and we haven't seen it just in the beginning. So we've implemented this. Everything works as before. We haven't done any of these. I guess there will be a second episode at some point. If you find it interesting and you don't tell me to do something else. I want... Next up, I said was indeed to have like a shake whenever there is an error. You can play like a sound effect as well. So let's check again. we get to this state, we increment the wrong guess, and then in the end we revert selected. So maybe if we are in the reverting state and well, that's it. If we're in the reverting state, maybe we sake the selected ones, the selected. So I'm thinking we can have like a sake animation or something like that, or we can use in motion one. Conditional classes again. Svelte conditional classes, I need to look it up. I think it's the class name and then the variable. Yeah. And does it have like a shorthand? No, wait. So class reverting. Let's try to do it like that. But we need to know if it's reverting, so it should be passed down, interestingly enough. So let's give it a sake class. So it's I'm just gonna call as this. Is this real? We'll find out. Ugh. Oh no. The card. The card. It's the card component. So let's pass it like a sake variable. It's gonna be like this. I am introducing booleans, which is not good. But I guess they are derived from a different state, so maybe it's not that bad. And we can always refactor. We'll switch back. And yeah, that doesn't look correct. And let's say that our card, memory card, we already have some custom classes here. Let's say class shake. It does this. Will it magically work? It did. It's messing up the flipping back around though, which I don't like. I can't make it. Ah, alright, so this works, but for some reason shaking the whole thing messes things up. Kinda makes sense, I guess. So it's another transform, isn't it? So if it's revealed, we do this transform, and then we kind of override with this other transform, which is unfortunate. So what can we do to shake just these two cards? It's this rotate that we want to preserve, I suppose. We just add them like this. Kinda works. How did it look before? Yeah, it was more dramatic, wasn't it? It is all wrong. So we should shake something, but maybe not the cards themselves. No, wait, the shake should happen immediately, right? So this should stay revealed and then flip back, correct? Look at myself, but I think I'm kind of getting it. Let's check. So for the board, it's revealed. The state is not hidden, so if it's selected or something else. But it should shake when it's selected, and we are in the process of reverting. And this means that we are revealed. We should always be revealed when we do this. Ah, it's the duration, isn't it? Like if we do it faster. Right. So that kind of makes sense. I don't know if I'm gonna keep this, but I do want to try it out. So yeah, if we shake quickly enough, shouldn't quickly enough be half a second? I guess not. Is it 300? Right. So long as the animation isn't that long, we're good. Is there a way to do it without using the translate here? Maybe not. In Tailwind CSS, we do have animation fade in once. But I guess if we do that, if we do it Tailwind style, we cannot keep the rotation, unfortunately. Is there a specific translate thing nowadays in CSS? Irrespective of transform? Guess not. I thought that was something that was added eventually. Yeah, we need to override the transform, so I don't think we'd be able to add it there, which means we can't make it linear or anything like that. But I'm not sure. Maybe we'll be keeping this, maybe not. I do like it. I do think it's nice feedback. Guess it's just up to us to make it look a bit nicer without having all these keyframes. Don't know why they've added them. So the main thing, I guess, is that there are a few states that they want them to stick around in. Rotate should always be the same because of this, but translate needs to go left and right. Maybe too big of a sake too. And it's only a translate X, I guess. GitHub Copilot got us somewhere, but not all the way there. Right, so this looks kind of fun to me. Maybe workable. Instead of being told whether it's revealed and whether to shake, do we want something else? Maybe not. Do we do animation anywhere else? No. But I guess it should have the same easings applied. I guess all I wanted here is, instead of having this is1 and is reverting booleans, I want I wonder if I can actually get those valid states out somewhere. Who knows? But the states are plain, reverting, and 1. And instead of is 1, get how the derived things work. So $name equals just for handiness. And then the page we need to return instead of those two things. This. Does it know what it is? Probably not. Let's say it's a string. we'll have a look at the TypeScript definitions as well. It should equally work the same. Let's have our nice little feedback when you make mistakes. So let's check this out. Next thing, I wanted to make the wrong guess counter a bit more fun. So have it like animate somehow. But I don't know if we should finish there. We'll definitely not serialize the state and bring it up from local storage. Maybe next time. And persist in the state, these two things might go nicely. We could do a refactor so we can dynamically change the card sets. If we look at here, then if we do refresh, we get the other flags, but it should be a bit nicer. It should be allowing us to change immediately and on the fly, and maybe even like keep playing the same game, because now you need to refresh. So that's definitely something to fix. Feedback on the browser. So this thing, we can actually make our SvelteKit app render a visualizer. So we can have a look and see how we can debug the state we're in, why we are in this state, why are we not. So we may do it in a next episode. Model-based testing, I'm very excited about. That's definitely something I want to hit. If you give, you pretty much give it, you pretty much have a finite state machine for your tests, I suppose. You describe all the scenarios that you think that you want to test, or actually you don't describe the scenarios, let me rephrase that. You describe all the places you want to visit and all the possible actions that may happen, and then it comes up with all the scenarios to test. Because maybe you won't be thinking, if in that page I can also click there, or I can press escape, or I can do whatever else. Maybe you won't have the mind or the patience to type out 20 tests that test every possible interaction on the page. But this thing will for you. So long as you specify, I want to be there, and these events are allowed, it will figure out all the interactions for you and create the test suits. And you can use it with VTest or Jest or Cypress and Playwright, which I think is what we'd be trying out. So try to set this up with Playwright, where I imagine that the user will be, the tests it will figure out will be, what if I try to change the dropdown in between plays? What if I try to do, I don't know, things I can't think of, which would be cool. So that's definitely a cool thing to test out. But I want to finish with the TypeScript types, because it does say that the VS Code plugin does something for this. So it will automatically generate typings. Did it automatically generate anything? It didn't. So that didn't quite work. This, I don't want anything here. But let's try the CLI. It is experimental. So let's try to do npx state type 10. we need this. So let's install the CLI tools in the project and see if we try now. Right, so how do we tell you what to scan? This. It found this, great. What did it generate? Is the answer nothing? Did it say does it in line? Oh, is it this? Oh, wow. That's cool. So I imagine that this magic thing that it did, the VS Code thingy, it did write it for me. Somehow it has some magic that means it has the types, but the problem is that I can't use the types then. It would be cool to know the possible states of this machine and use them elsewhere in the project. So some of these types I'd like to use myself, and it looks like I cannot. Oh well. Let's have a look at the editor again. Again, it's quite unfortunate how it organizes things, but I find it funny. And let's give the inspector another try. So as I switch to the comments and any final words, I will, maybe we can do the make the move counter more fun thing. Yeah, this looks like it's never gonna load for some reason. But make the counter more fun. Whenever I do a wrong guess, I want this to like fly out and fly in, I guess, something like that. How would we do that? It is on our page component. So it's here. And maybe we can animate it. But should we animate it with like motion 1? What should we do? So surprise animations in the end. Some people love that. I love animations for sure. We do have this project again, and we can grab it like this. But is it too much work? Do we just need a class? So should we just be saying, let's have a div here. A span. And if the state value is not reverting, else do something else. And if. So I'm thinking if we revert, we can maybe do something where we fly one of the strong tags out and another one of the strong tags in. Do we have like an appear animation? Fade in once. So one of the strong tags in there, let's give it the fade in once class, see what happens. Nothing. Do we use fade in once anywhere? Ah, of course, it's this. Needs this. And by this, I mean the animate part. Want a relative class here. Does the fade in thingy? Nah, it does do a little transform, although it's hard to see. Fade out. We want from opacity 1 to 0. From this to go to 50 maybe. Or minus 50. So one of them, sometimes in Svelte, the prettier break-in is incredibly bad. So we probably need an absolute position here. Yeah, now we're getting somewhere. So do we do an minus 25 feels alright. If it's actually happening. Ah, let's play this. Almost there. So I guess what remains is to give this enough width. So maybe a class. Maybe a margin left. A gap. Right. So first the thing to fade out. And we want this to be longest count -1. will duration change anything if I apply it here? Guess not, because we've got it hard-coded, unfortunately. And this sticks a lot to the left. I guess we can't really help it. But hey, looks kind of more fun. Like between the sake and the counter, I don't know what is more visible or not. Z0 less Z index, Z10 more Z index, and we can say that the color of this becomes like something. Maybe not. Would be fun. So question may be, why not use the Svelte's built-in animations? I was thinking that maybe because they depend on having an if-else statement, they wouldn't look nice here. But maybe I was wrong. So we can have this all ready to go. And also give it a try with Svelte's own animations. After a final sip of coffee. So Svelte animations. Let's see what we got here. In, out. Is it actually transitions? I think so. All right, so let's have a go here. Because that's probably what we need. Let's copy these transitions. And we probably only want the fly one. Let's give them a go. So when this is going out, we want it to fly. And we don't need to give this as a string, right? Let's give it an object. And this one, we only need one. Let's say that instead of doing all of this class stuff, we want to animate in with a fly. See what happens. It doesn't look... Did it work? Maybe it worked. Yeah, it did work. But I guess we need some position absolutes and stuff. Probably not. They should be handled by these things. Let me try the string versions of the fly. Prettier says no. So let's see again. Doesn't look like it's flying anywhere. What would happen if I just told it to fade? It should be able to figure it out, because if the state value is not reverting, then you have this. We start as this, and on the first wrong guess, the one of the zeros should fly out, but doesn't quite. Let's give it an absolute class just in case. Oh. Well, that was nice to know. It flies from like way off. And also does a little fade, which is cool, I guess. Does the out never appear? Yeah, this doesn't look like it's animated, which is weird. Oh, it's fine now. This is tripping me out. So why is it? Because they're both strong elements? It is not. Is it because they're part of the same if? Is it trying to do like something clever? And it's not quite doing it. Just magically appear again. So let's see if we can actually trick this. It disappears for our reverting stuff, which may be good enough. What do we do? This updates in the meantime, which is quite cool, I guess. if it's not in an if state, it won't do it at all because it never renders even though the content changes. Does it need the absolute class? Yes. Needs it to fly. Can I do anything else with the fly animation? Let's look at the docs. Ooh, you can add a delay. But we probably don't want this. I was just trying to see if we can make it kinda red. We can probably combine the animations to make that happen. Crossfade. So we can probably make our own. I'll just have a quick look. Svelte combine transitions. I'm thinking whether to try to combine this, creating our own transition function. Let's give it a quick go. Don't want this. Let's create a what does this take? Number, sure. Color red. Oof, but it would have to do with the timing. It's unfortunate. It's not even applying it. Funny enough. Error in fly. So when this flies out, I want to try the erroring fly. So it does make it red, which is fair enough. Apply class. Can we apply a tailwind class when something gets out? Guess not. CSS, can we do like class? Is that like a thing? I'm doing this on the fly. This may be cool, but we didn't do it. If we did give this text primary, how would it look? So it would always look like this, which is fair enough. When we were applying the color here on the CSS, that was fine. But can we just return anything, I guess, here? Yeah, I guess so. Svelte, apply. You can do it on a thing when it's trying to remove it. We add the transition color, will that make it work better? I think the answer is no. It immediately becomes red. Oh well. Had a try at creating our own animation. I didn't quite like it, so here we go. Delete this, forget this ever happened. But still, I think this is a slightly nicer counter than before. It takes a while to get back in, but hey. Is 300 better? That should be the same. The out, I guess, can be even longer. But 500 will do. All right, do we use the how many you've done before? Do say a winner is you. We can pass it to the board now that we pass a few testings. Look, this many moves. It's gonna be longer than I thought. Because I want to say if run guess count equals else if and what do I want to say here? Almost done. And my take here is, I guess this is one, this is singular, if not it's plural. Right, let's win. See what happens. Nice start. Not the best. Continuation. Oh, are we not doing the flip? We're not doing the flip because we are immediately doing the thing. No reveal. Interesting. Something to fix later. Just noticed. Clearly an episode with promise, because I think we did some fun stuff, but we'll need a bit of further tweaking to pay dividends. Cool. All right, last chance for someone to say something. Gonna switch to the... let's look at the agenda to recap what we did today. We played with XSTATE, used the FINITE STATE machine from them in order to be able to test things better eventually. but also to make our memory card game a bit more aboutable. So we can add animations like this, like the counter. I think it's a bit easier to follow the code now with the state machine, but up to you. It did also allow us to have this graph through the visual editor that I was expecting more of, but it keeps printing everything in the same place. But maybe that's a hint that maybe I didn't map out the state as well. Maybe it shouldn't have just a plane, and that does quite a lot of stuff, a reverting and a one state. Maybe we would want to have a plane, processing, matching state, and then reverting and one state. Maybe that would make it easier, but I'm not sure. We can revisit that eventually. We did use the VS Code extension that is doing some cool stuff and is showing highlights, is lint underlines, where I can't pass in a type of event, I'm missing a payload or something like that. It is making it handier for sure. We did add that delay and hit stop when people miss, but that has a bug that we'll need to fix soon enough. And we did make the counter a bit more fun. A big thing that we should be able to do with XState would be to serialize the whole state into local storage and sync that with the user's local storage, so if they refresh, they go back to the game that they were playing before. We were talking about this episodes ago. We didn't end up doing it because we tried to do it with cookies, and you can only have this much of a payload in a cookie. You can't make a cookie like megabytes big, which is, you know, for good reason. But local storage, you can get a bit crazy with it. So we'll try to persist it there in the future and see if we can do it depending on the game mode we're in, the practice mode or the daily mode. We do get a different seed every day. And then we'll want to see if we can dynamically change the tile sets, if we can do a refactor where it doesn't really matter what the face, what the emoji of each card is, just maybe it maps into a letter like A or an index like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have the tile set, and if you select the flags or the popular or the stuff or whichever else tile set, you just get that tile set to you, and on the fly it changes the cards that you see, which is probably more fun than replaying and losing your game. And browser tests would be cool. I would have more confidence to do those refactors if we did have the tests. And we could explore seeing that state visualizer thingy in the app, so you can actually render this, or the inspector actually, somewhere in your app. You can create like an iframe, an element where an iframe including this will exist, which would be cool if you deploy this and you want other engineers or people to play around and see, we're in this state, we're in that state, this is what we're handling. It would be cool. If it's gonna look like this, it's not gonna help anybody, I don't think. But if it looks nice, then it's gonna be helpful. In general, I do think the best part of state machines is having this diagram there to understand, from this state I can do this or I can do that. But the situation we were in, it would be readable if this was bigger and not overlapping, like not in front of each other state. And much easier to see than to start explaining you're playing, but then you select a card, if something is matching you revert back, or whatever else. Even as I try to explain it, I stumble around. Cool. So I think that's about it for what we did today, what we were not really planning to do because this is huge, but what was on my mind of cool features that maybe XState would allow for after we've experimented with it, which was most of the episode. In any case, thank you so much for joining me. I will switch to the face view where I did add the thumbnail on the top right? As you see the screen. Hope you like it. I do have the background Apple Music thing that I am playing from Artlist, who is not a sponsor, of course. Nothing sponsored here. I'm just using tools, and you see if I like them or not. And if I do, I usually make videos about them. So you can try them out too and have more fun with your tech as well. Keep the comments coming on any video. I do read all of them. I am still going through the Playwright setup video, which turned out to be bigger than I thought. But there should be exciting stuff coming soon. In the meantime, I do want to keep coding publicly, using more Svelte publicly as well. Maybe exploring Next.js again. It's been a while. We'll see. You tell me what you want to see. You tell me what confuses you and you'd like to see me explore it or explain it. And I'll see what I can do. Alright, I believe that with that, I will bid you adieu. Have a lovely, lovely weekend. And first of all, a lovely Friday evening. See you around.